Browns fans, don't panic. I feel like we do it too often. But I just saw the news that Kevin Stefanski got a head coaching gig before we even reached our second interviews. And I kind of figured this would happen. He's even though we don't like him, we were tired of him. His time was up in Cleveland. Whatever you want to say, he lost the team. Whatever. He's a proven coach. As far as he can have some success. I know he struggled here, but obviously while we're rebuilding the roster and all that, he still has his repertoire, his record from the Minnesota days, and then obviously leading us to the playoffs. And I figured he was either going to end up in New York or in Atlanta. Those were the two best options. I felt like he would match and they would have interest in him. And I feel like he would have went to New York if Harbaugh didn't become available. So, what the Browns are doing, or actually, let me stay on Stefanski for a minute. Uh, no ill will towards him at all. It was just his time was up here. And I think it was time to get a new face, new voice, somebody that the team would start to believe in. And I couldn't stand his interviews. I know it's like at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to things you should require from a coach, at least as a fan. But just hearing the same thing over and over again, we got to do better. We got to do better. We got to get better. We're going to get better, but we don't get better. So it was time to get a new voice in there. But as far as him being in Atlanta, good situation. Great situation, actually. They got a good defense, a young defense. With some veterans and on offense, obviously you got Bijan, and then he's reunited with Kirk Cousins. Although I don't know what Cousins' plans are, I don't know what his contract looks like there. But I feel like if he's going to be successful there, and I think he will be, and Browns fans don't get mad if he makes like the playoffs this first season. It's most likely going to happen. They've got structure there. I know Atlanta isn't the greatest organization as far as track record, but they have Kirk Cousins there, and I think he needs to be the starter for them to be successful next year. Like a first round playoff exit, second round playoff exit. I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, but they will make the playoffs, I think. And like I said, if they're going to be successful, I think it has to be with Kirk Cousins. We've seen Stefanski with younger, athletic, or more non-traditional quarterbacks, and he doesn't have a great track record with them. Whether it's Shador, whether it's DTR, whether it's Deshaun, and Deshaun had his own issues and uh, uh, health issues as far as the Achilles and all that, but he Stefanski's biggest issues for me, he wasn't able to consistently develop talent. I felt like our teams lacked discipline under him. So whether it was like, and I'm not some offensive guru, but you could tell, like I've played football in the past, and like with our linemen and schematic scheme, and I put a lot of this on him because he was the offensive guru. I expect it to be top tier because he comes from that offensive minded side of things. You could see like spacing with linemen, whether they were pulling to go contact a linebacker or get to the next level and block for the running back. A lot of that stuff just wasn't clicking. It didn't look clean. And there was just a lot of things, a lot of penalties over and over again, the same ones consistently week to week. And especially when you're hearing we got to get better, and then those things continue to happen for primarily his whole tenure. Obviously, we had the year with Baker where things went well, but that still wasn't a seamless season where we were just clicking on all cylinders. I've been a Browns fan my whole life, and the best Browns football I've seen on both sides of the ball. Well, we're playing the best defensively that I've seen in my time as a Browns fan, but when it all came together was 2007, and still didn't amount to anything. But so yeah, this next coach, as far as coaches that we're looking at, I think we only have two scheduled for second interviews so far. I think that's Jim Schwartz and Todd Monken. Monken, I'm not a fan of. Like, and I actually think they tried to play a strategic game. I don't know if they had anything behind the scenes where they knew that Harbaugh was going to be let go, but I almost feel like they brought in Monken initially because they knew he might be tied to Harbaugh. Now I don't know if that's the case or anything, but that was my initial thought. Like when we first scheduled an interview, I was like, why is he the first one that we're? I know he was previous here, but that doesn't make any sense. He's an older guy, um, and offensive guy, but still, that didn't make much sense to me. Schwartz, I love Schwartz, but I want to see him stay on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, you saw him in Detroit, and he could have different success. Again, a new team, and he's got cachet in the locker room. The guys love him. They seem to love him. They're up talking him. And I think he would enjoy to be here. I think you put him in a tough situation because you interview him for the head coach, and if you end up not going with him, that's why I thought that initial one was a courtesy interview, but now he's getting the second one, which makes me think they're more serious about it, and he has a good chance of getting it. He might actually be the front runner. I still want to go offensive, but if we're going offense, out of the people that we're talking to, I like Nate. Shieldhouse, I think is how you pronounce his last name, so he'd be a great pickup. But I like Udinski. Udinski is like, I hear him talk. He looks, sounds like a head coach. He gives reasonable answers. You see what he did with the Jaguars. And I think I'd give him more pull than Pritchard from, and I think we might have gave Pritchard a second interview. I don't know, but I give him more pull or more credence than Pritchard because of what I know. He was fully hands-on with Jacksonville. And you see what their offense did this last year. Of course, we got their first pick, and now they want to be all beastly and dominate everybody, make the playoffs. And now we got the 28th pick in the first round or whatever. It's still a first round pick, but still just Brown's luck. But I like Udinski, but my main worry with him is that at this point, he's so young. I think he's only 30. Who is he gonna bring in? Like, it's gonna fall on him to build his staff, and he hasn't been in the league long enough. Obviously, you're gonna have a young staff at that point, and you don't know if he'd want to keep. Well, I feel like if he's brought in, they're like, you're keeping Schwartz if Schwartz wants to stay. But if not, or if he does, who's he gonna bring to do the offensive side of the ball? Does that mean we have another offensive minded head coach that isn't going to hand that duty over to the offense? I want a head coach, an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and I want them all to have their defined roles. I want the offensive coordinator to control the offense. Sure, head coach can still call plays or whatever, but at least coordinate and have that fully functioning. Same with Schwartz. I want these guys to be able to answer to one person, communicate with one person, and be able to hand over those duties once they're on the field. But I think to get things situated and get things in the right direction for the Browns, we've struggled with power and designating responsibilities. I feel like you look at one person, you're like, what exactly do you do? Even with Deep Podesta, the statistics guy, we got him up out of here. But for a lot of his tenure, people were wondering what he even did and how much say he had in our decisions affected where we ended up at. So I don't know. I want designated roles. I want OC, DC, head coach, and stop. Have a tier of exactly where people are in the pecking order, so we don't have to question it. Someone calls the shots, and everybody else falls in line underneath them. But yeah, I do prefer Udinski. I have other favorite coaching options, obviously, but it looks like these are the guys we're rolling with. I don't know if Sean McDermott might become available after what happened to the Bills yesterday. I kind of doubt it. I figured LaFleur wouldn't become available. I was surprised they extended him so quickly, but yeah, Udinski I think is my pick, but you have to bring in some experience around him. I think DC for Jim Schwartz, if he stayed there, that would be perfect. You bring in a guy like Udinski who can kind of control the way the team is going to function, or at least set a standard for offense. And then I don't know if you can bring in a more experienced guy, because then that kind of cancels out what you're hiring him for. So we might have to bring in another young guy. But I just don't know who falls under his belt. That'll be an interesting decision. I like a guy like Declan Doyle or Davis Webb, but Yeah, I have no clue. Udinski is my pick, or Schwartz. I'm cool with either of them. Just get it done so we can start building out this roster and get things prepared, and hopefully start heading in the right direction and developing the talent we have, and then hitting on these draft picks. I am an Andrew Berry fan. I can explain that in another one because I know he's kind of like not on everybody's favorite list. It seems like I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. So let me know your thoughts. Who do you want the Browns to take? Or what do you think of the Kevin Stefanski going to Atlanta hire? Do you prefer Jim Schwartz? Do you prefer Grant? Or do you have a random name that nobody's even really talking about? Or maybe they haven't even looked at for an interview? Let me know down in the comment section. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.